So I'm Mike van Berg. I'm working here in the building beside this one. Already for the front, if I'm not used to using this, if I'm going to talk like this, please give me a sign. So first, before I explain the whole title, I'm going to show you a bit about how it works within ABN Amro. So basically, this is not the official diagram of ABN Amro, but oh, my N fell back there. So I work in the blockchain lab. The blockchain lab is here. It's in IT. And basically within the blockchain lab, we have 3 goals. First one is basically the research. So we research everything related to blockchain technology. And everything related means, you know, we also research, okay, what are stable coins, what are state channels, how can we use zero knowledge proofs, and everything that's new will come by, we'll find and we'll see what we can use it for. A second thing we do in the lab is do experiments, of course. We have a lot of contacts within the business, they come with use cases, and then we can act upon it, we can advise them. And basically the third one, we're a center of expertise. People can come to us if they have questions about technology, what you can use it for, what you cannot use it for. If you make an internal database, please don't use blockchain, that kind of stuff. But we're not the only one within ABN AMRO that works with blockchain. We also have the tribe, and the tribe basically means, the font basically made the lines go weird. Everyone within the business, within legal, within risk, can come to us, but there are some persons there, some colleagues that are interested in the technology or just know some use cases or are just very interested. They are in the blockchain tribe with us. Every 2 weeks we discuss with them what is new, what are new progresses, what are new challenges, everything related to this technology. In this way we don't want to have all the knowledge in one place. It's very heavy, this. And there goes my slide. So this way we don't have everything in one place, but we have all the knowledge shared within ABN AMRO. So let's go back a bit to, you know, the title of the slide of the presentation. Ecosystems is basically a term in which we try to define the interdependencies of a community. So, and a community that's self-sustainable. So an ecosystem is a collection of participants that can interact with one another independently and self-sustainably for maybe an indefinite amount of time. So a decentralized ecosystem is in our definition then one of an ecosystem that doesn't rely on one or only a few actors in order to function properly. So you don't have one single actor. When it's not available, the whole ecosystem comes to a halt. So we, as ABN AMRO, we have the vision to create these ecosystems, but I'm going to first explain to you a bit why or how do we approach this. So to make an ecosystem, you need a protocol that describes how people interact with one another, how do you interact with government, how do you interact with businesses, and how do you interact with each other. This is basically needs 3 levels, which one, the top one is the most important, that's belief. And basically that means we need to agree on something we value. What do we want to achieve with an ecosystem or an ecosystem that we try to build? Because if that's not there, then you can stop entirely. The second one is governance. Okay, we want to achieve one thing. How do we govern it? How do we govern the protocol? How do we make changes? So I can give you an example. In Bitcoin, the governance is decentralized. We agreed, or everyone in the ecosystem agreed that we have a decentralized organization. And the third layer is interaction. Okay, we agreed, we have a consensus mechanism, etc., etc. How do we now precisely interact with each other? What kind of smart contracts are possible? What kind of APIs we can use in? What are the clients? And also, what's the basic security measure? And when you have these three things and all the participants agree, then basically you are set up to make an ecosystem protocol. Everyone agrees and everyone knows how to interact with one another. Yeah, the obvious one here is, of course, the governance. Okay, ABN AMRO, centralized entity. So would you put a single entity in charge of an ecosystem? And basically, I'm not going to explain or elaborate a lot on it because you know it already, but how we look at centralization and decentralization is that you have a spectra. It's not binary, it's not or one or the other. You can have a bit of centralization and a lot of decentralization, or the other way around. Probably the truth with most use cases is somewhere in the middle. So as an example, how do you fulfill such an ecosystem protocol? We have Comgo. Comgo is an experiment from us, together with a lot of other participants. And we did an exercise with everyone in that ecosystem. Comgo is with commodity trade, but it wants to achieve more than that. It wants to achieve a connection between different other platforms or other ecosystems. Comgo will then provide a value, being the glue between these platforms. And they did the same exercise. We have a belief. The belief is, okay, we want to be that glue. We want to connect all these platforms together. The next step was, okay, we need a governance. We are shareholder as ABN AMRO in the Comgo organization. And then we created, or I actually agreed on a consensus mechanism to be used within that protocol. And thirdly, we have, of course, some agreements on APIs, clients, security, etc., etc. But also, how do we do smart contracts? What's possible and what is not? But I want to strive to a bit more. So the belief was, okay, we want to interact with other platforms. Well, the way it's going to do that is you will have different ecosystems, different platforms, where Comgo is in the middle. And the thing that Comgo actually provides as a service is just finance. So for trade, it's, for example, letter of credits, letter of intents, and all kind of documentation that's part of that. But the trades can also happen independently. That happens here. FACT is also another commodity finance ecosystem for us. What FACT does is basically for oil companies, they can trade with each other basically independently. If they don't need finance, they can trade with each other without Comgo. But if they need a financial product, they can use Comgo. There's a connection binding these two ecosystems together. Why is Comgo not just a part of FACT? Is because it wants to also provide these services to other ecosystems. So, for example, we can create an agriculture platform or a metal platform or something completely different that we didn't think of yet, and we don't want to rule those out. So by being an interconnected platform, we can combine ecosystems together. So that's kind of already an explanation of where we want to go as ABN AMRO. So our current state looks a bit like the left, you know, a sole entity. It has some customers, maybe some suppliers, some partners, but it doesn't really interact with what's around. It is a very inside-out kind of view. What we want to strive is towards the right, where everything is connected and we don't see ourselves as one entity, having some customers and some suppliers, some products, some finances, but we want to see ourselves as part of these kind of ecosystems. We are part of finance, we are part of identities, we are part of real estate. And we can offer services there, but we don't look at ourselves as being one company. We are part of ecosystems, platforms that are ideally all connected with one another to provide most value. So I can provide some examples here. Commodity trading is basically the oil that I just said. FACT is that, where you can trade oil and other commodities. We have trade finance, which was also a big experiment for us, with soya beans. Clearing actually had the first blockchain technology in live use at ABN Amro. They actually have a separate blockchain lab because they're a separate entity with a separate banking license and they want to just do everything themselves. We have securities. We want to tokenize them to make them being easy to trade with. If you want to trade something with other parties, it makes it easier if you use the same protocol. We thought about real estate, how maybe crowdfunding real estate, make it easier for not only the bank to finance a house, but also other stakeholders. And yeah, we are also thinking of, okay, cryptocurrencies, can we do something with it? But the most interesting, and that's also why there's a different color, is there are some ground technologies or ecosystems that are necessary for this. One of those, a big one, is identity. Because our experience is that that is very hard to achieve. How do we register, manage digital identities? So a project there is how do we manage sovereign identities? So I'm going through this a bit quick because probably you guys know it already. We have regulation as a bank. It can be very annoying at times. They're very slow, innovating technology. They just don't know what to do with it the first 10 years. Another one is confidentiality. I heard zero knowledge proof in the intro. That will help a lot, providing a bit of confidentiality for businesses. They don't want to share all their data, all their clients, all their transactions with everyone. The biggest one is basically aligning participants. That's basically the goal also of this talk, of our vision and our protocol building. Align participants together. The more participants in an ecosystem and in a platform, the more use of it will be for those. And I already mentioned digital identities, but also digital assets. How do you manage assets? How do you register assets in a blockchain? How do you make sure it's not duplicated? How do you make it not corrupt? How do you know it's registered correctly by the creator of those assets? And with this one, I want to finish, because then maybe we have a lot of, some time for questions still. I hope I achieved my goal of explaining why and a bit of how ABN AMRO is going forward with these kind of technologies and what our vision is for the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Very interesting to see how ABN AMRO is moving forward also as a high speed in the blockchain ecosystem. And I'm sure there are a lot of questions, right, about the role of banks in building platforms and connecting different blockchain platforms in this. So we have cubes here, right? So this cube we cannot, normally you throw them around, right? But these are sprinklers. And I've been told that we cannot throw around too high because then everything will be flooded. So please pass them a little bit around or throw them low.
Good.
Right?
I have two very quick questions. One is, how many ecosystems is ABN AMRO involved in? Is it 10, 100, 1,000? And second question is, do you monetize it? Do you make money out of it as a bank? Or is it still investing time?
Basically, we don't really have a full list of all the ecosystems that we want to build or we want to be connected to, because basically we realize it's not an exhaustive list. There are probably different ecosystems still emerging that we can maybe connect to in the future. The ones I showed you here, they're just a subset. We also have escrow accounts or syndicated loans. But basically everything we provide that uses a lot of parties where there are actually lack of trust between parties, then you can use it. And these are just examples of where that requirement is met. What was the second question?
Do you monetize it?
Yeah.
It's already a business for ABN AMRO investing.
Basically, the thought behind this is that once you have an ecosystem, and maybe even connected with other ecosystems, that the value of that ecosystem being there is already so valuable that you don't need to monetize that protocol itself. So basically, being part of these ecosystems lets you provide services that you otherwise couldn't provide, or provide as optimally as possible.
Any other questions? We have someone here. So prepare for the second or the third question over there.
Yeah, you spoke about cryptocurrencies and maybe a use of that. Are you already experimenting with that, like with Ripple, or how much?
Well,
are you
I
in
can't say very much on that topic, but we are toying with the ideas of, okay, can we do stuff with it, what can we do with it? But of course, regulation limits a big part of that.
So no actual use yet?
No actual use yet, no.
Okay. You have a question? I'll throw it over.
I actually also wanted to ask about Ripple because it was actually created with dedicated to a banking industry, if I'm correct. So the question is, are you in collaboration, or this is completely independent from Ripple?
Well, actually, I don't really know much about what we have with Ripple at the moment. There are some other colleagues that are in the business, which is Ripple services, that look into it now. I have no knowledge to share on that point at the moment.
So time for one more question. Do we vote for this guy? Yeah. Most intelligent question. We have a banker here, so sure. Go your gang.
I wonder how much of what you do today is confidential. I mean, how much of what you do you share with other banks, or you see other banks are doing as confidential, or competition almost, or you're working as an industry in the banking to make the blockchain something useful for the community and for the world?
Basically, it all comes down to, this picture. All these platforms need a lot of companies in them because making a platform yourself, it doesn't really serve a purpose. So any experiment we do, we always do with other, in a consortium or anything, with other participants. And everything I share today is not really confidential. So I think the gist of this is also you need to share data. You need to share your knowledge with other people because you want those participants to be convinced of joining this platform or these platforms or these ecosystems. Because without them, it doesn't really add much value.
Thanks very much, Michael, for the great talk, and thanks for the questions. Give him a big hand.
Thank you.
Dank je wel.